before a word leaves her mouth, her knees touch the ground. That's how you know she's in love. Not with a man first, not with a feeling, but with the one who made her emotions, the one who designed her capacity to feel. Because when a woman is truly in love, her spirit bows before her voice rises. She prays before she pleads. She worships before she worries. And the world may not see it, but heaven moves when she hits the floor. You see, love is not an emotional accident, it's a spiritual assignment. And a woman who understands that knows that love is too sacred to be left to chance. She doesn't throw herself into love like a wave crashing without direction. No, she enters love like a priestess entering the Holy of Holies with reverence, with preparation, with prayer. She understands that if she brings her heart to the altar before she brings it to a man, she'll never be broken beyond repair. She is not desperate, she is discerning. She is not loud, she is aligned. She does not compete for attention because she already has the audience of heaven. When love awakens in her, her first response is not to talk about it to her friends or post about it online or even to chase after the one who stirred it. Her first response is to bow because her heart is not her own. It is governed by divine protocol. She knows that her emotions are real, but they are not rulers. She may feel deeply, but she does not act recklessly. Because her identity is not tied to who loves her, but to who made her. That's why her power is in her posture. She kneels before she negotiates. She intercedes before she initiates. She surrenders before she speaks. That's not weakness. That's wisdom. Now, don't misunderstand her silence. Her quiet moments are not emptiness. They are encounters. She's not inactive. She's incubating. She's not voiceless. She's being guided. When a woman is in love, she doesn't give all of herself to another. She gives all of herself to God first, so that what she gives to a man is not out of emptiness, but overflow. The floor is her foundation. It's where she exchanges emotion for instruction. It's where she lays down her fears and picks up her peace. It's where she releases control and receives clarity. That's why she doesn't beg for love, she prays into purpose. She doesn't cling, she covers. She doesn't break, she builds. And you can't manipulate a woman like that. You can't control her with charm or confuse her with compliments. Because her discernment is sharper than your deception. Her love is filtered through the Spirit. Her attachments are governed by assignment. She has emotional boundaries because she has spiritual clarity. Detachment is not her defense, it is her design. She can love you and still walk away if God says so. She can feel for you and still obey her call because she is not led by her longing. She is led by his leading. She doesn't idolize relationships. She prioritizes revelation. That's why her love doesn't drain her, it develops her. When she's on her knees, she's not low. She's in alignment. When she's praying, she's not waiting, she's working. She's inviting heaven into her heart before she invites a man into her life. And that's the kind of woman who changes legacies because she doesn't build love on her emotions, she builds it on eternal principles. She is not afraid to let go. She is not afraid to walk alone. Because she knows that anything birthed from prayer will be sustained by purpose. And if she loses anything by obeying God, she hasn't lost, she's been positioned. So when she falls in love, she doesn't fall apart. She falls into order, into truth, into covering, into divine timing. And that's why before her mouth opens, her knees already speaking. True love begins with surrender, not possession. Love, when it is pure and divine, does not seek to own or control. It seeks to serve and submit to a higher order. A woman who understands the depth of love knows that it is not about holding on to someone tightly, but about releasing them into God's will. She doesn't measure her love by how close she can keep a man, but by how much she can trust God with his heart. Her love is not anxious or desperate. It is anchored in surrender. She doesn't cling. She covers. She doesn't chase. She intercedes. Because love in its highest form is an act of worship. The woman who has matured in love knows that her emotions are gifts, not guides. She doesn't allow her feelings to dictate her future. Instead, she surrenders them. She brings her desires, her longings, her dreams, not to the feet of a man, but to the feet of her Creator. In doing so, she removes the burden of needing love to fulfill her. She already is full, because love to her is not about possession, it is about purpose. If it is God's will, it will flourish. If not, she still has peace. This surrender is not passivity, it is not weakness, it is power under control. It is the boldness to say, God, I trust you more than I trust my own heart. That kind of love doesn't chain her, it frees her. She is not consumed by the need to keep someone because she knows that what belongs in her life is held together by divine hands. So her love doesn't come from fear, but from faith. Not from insecurity, but from intimacy with God. A woman in love does not chase emotions. She submits her emotions to God first. Her feelings may rise like waves, strong and sudden, but she has learned that emotions without spiritual guidance can lead to devastation. So instead of running with the current of her heart, she pauses and brings it before the one who made her heart. She knows that just because something feels good doesn't mean it is good. And just because someone makes her feel seen doesn't mean they are sent. She has grown past the point of allowing her emotions to lead her into premature decisions. She doesn't make commitments in the heat of passion or speak vows birthed from emotional highs. She filters her feelings through the lens of God's word. Her excitement does not overshadow her discernment, and her attraction does not override her obedience. She understands that emotions are not evil, they are human. But they were never meant to be her compass. Instead, they are indicators that drive her deeper into prayer, not into impulsive action. She knows the danger of building relationships on emotion without revelation. So she prays, she fasts, she waits. She allows God to speak into her feelings before she speaks to the man. That's why her love is steady. It's not built on mood swings, but on moments in his presence. She guards her heart not with walls, but with wisdom. Her emotions are deep, but they are disciplined. She can feel, but she doesn't fall blindly. Her love is thoughtful, intentional, and covered in the Spirit. She doesn't run towards someone just because her heart is stirred. She walks in pace with God, knowing that love submitted to Him will never lead her into bondage. Kneeling before speaking is the sign of spiritual intelligence, not weakness. A woman who understands divine order knows that prayer is not her last resort, it is her first instinct. Before she expresses her emotions, before she explains her needs, she bows in reverence. She doesn't see prayer as a routine, she sees it as her positioning. Her silence in the presence of God carries more weight than her speeches in front of people, because she knows that what is settled in the Spirit does not need to be fought for in the flesh. The world may look at a woman on her knees and see fragility, but heaven sees authority. She is not hiding. She is preparing. She is not backing down. She is building up. She is not passive. She is partnering with the Creator of love itself. It takes a high level of wisdom to understand that spiritual posture precedes verbal expression. The woman who prays before she speaks does not just react, she responds. Her words are not wasted because they are watered in prayer. She is not easily provoked because her spirit is already aligned. She doesn't enter conversations to win arguments. She enters them to walk in truth. And if she must remain silent after prayer, she is at peace with that. Because her confidence is not in what she says, it's in what God says to her when she's quiet. She doesn't speak to be heard, she speaks when she's been led. This is the wisdom of a woman who knows that clarity flows from consecration. Her insight doesn't come from emotions, it comes from encounter. When she bows first, she rises in strength. When she prays first, she speaks with precision. This is not weakness, this is divine strategy. A purpose-filled woman seeks heaven's validation before man's affection. She is not moved by compliments that fade or attention that shifts. Her heart is anchored in something eternal. Before she desires to be chosen by a man, she desires to be approved by God. She knows that if her identity is not affirmed by the one who made her, she will search for it in the ones who were never assigned to complete her. So she lives from a place of divine affirmation, not emotional desperation. She doesn't measure her worth by how many people pursue her, but by how faithfully she is walking in her purpose. Her beauty is not just in her appearance, but in her alignment. She's not easily swayed by sweet words because she listens first for the whisper of God. She's not seduced by attention because she already has heaven's focus. Her decisions are not based on who likes her, but on what pleases God. That's why her love is rare. It is governed by purpose. She can walk away from what looks good if it's not God. She can say no to what many would die to have because she understands the power of divine timing. She doesn't need to prove herself or fight for love because the love she carries is already complete. She doesn't beg to be loved. She simply becomes love. Her validation doesn't come from being needed. It comes from being known by God. That's why she doesn't shrink herself to fit into someone's life. She expands herself to fulfill the life God has written for her. Before she opens her heart to a man, she opens it to God. She allows him to examine her, to shape her, to prepare her, because when heaven approves, she no longer needs the applause of people. When love drives her to prayer, she is aligning her heart with divine order. She doesn't see love as a mere emotion to indulge, but as a responsibility to steward. She understands that love is powerful, and without divine guidance, it can lead to confusion, distraction, or even destruction. So instead of running headfirst into what feels good, she bows her head in reverence, asking God, is this from you? She seeks not just love, but clarity. Not just romance, but righteousness. Because to her, love that isn't submitted to God is a risk she cannot afford to take. He prays not because she's unsure of her feelings, but because she refuses to be led by them alone. She knows her heart can deceive her, but God never will. So she invites him into her desires, into her attractions, into her conversations. Before she gives her heart away, she places it in the hands of the one who created it. This posture does not make her passive, it makes her powerful. Because now she is not operating on assumptions, but on divine revelation. Her prayers are not frantic. They are focused. She doesn't beg God to make someone love her. She prays for wisdom to discern what is true. She doesn't pray for someone to stay. She prays for strength to let go if the connection is not purpose-driven. That's why her love life is not chaotic, it is ordered. Her peace comes from knowing that she is not building on fleeting feelings, but on a firm foundation. When she prays, she is not delaying love. She is developing discernment. She doesn't just want a relationship, she wants alignment. Because a woman who allows love to lead her to prayer is a woman who will never be led into confusion. She moves in sync with heaven's rhythm. Detachment is not indifference. It is rooted in confidence that God governs all outcomes. A woman who walks in spiritual maturity understands that letting go is not always loss. It is often protection. She can love deeply without being consumed. She can care without clinging. She doesn't confuse detachment with emotional coldness. Instead, she sees it as an expression of her faith. She believes that what is meant for her will be sustained by God, not by her effort to hold it together. So she releases without fear and trusts without control. This confidence is not arrogance. It is anchored in surrender. She knows that holding on too tightly to anything or anyone can easily become idolatry. So she practices the art of release, not because she doesn't value love, but because she values peace. Her detachment is not a wall, it is wisdom. It is the fruit of knowing that her identity, her joy, and her future are not in the hands of people, but in the hands of her Creator. She no longer begs for closure, for attention, or for validation. She doesn't force relationships to work. She allows God to remove what distracts and replace it with what aligns. She doesn't panic when people walk away because she believes every exit is either divine redirection or protection. This level of detachment allows her to love freely, give generously, and walk boldly. She knows that her stability is not tied to circumstances or to who stays, it's tied to the one who never leaves. Her detachment is a shield from emotional chaos. It protects her from being enslaved to outcomes and allows her to rest in obedience. This is not emotional withdrawal. It is spiritual maturity. She loves, but she is not possessed. She gives, but she is not emptied. She's anchored beyond appearances. A praying woman does not panic. She positions. When uncertainty rises, she doesn't fall into fear. She rises in faith. Instead of reacting impulsively, she steps back to hear clearly. Prayer becomes her strategy, not just her sanctuary. While others may run to fix situations in their own strength, she quietly aligns herself under heaven's authority. She understands that positioning herself before God is more effective than pursuing answers in chaos. Her posture determines her power. She doesn't rush to explain, to defend, or to prove her worth. She lets prayer do the work in the unseen. She knows that her position before God will influence what happens before people. That's why she doesn't crumble under pressure. She leans into her divine place of stability. Panic is for those who believe they're in control. Peace is for those who know God is. She rests not because things are easy, but because she trusts the one orchestrating all things. In moments of emotional tension, she doesn't let her feelings lead her decisions. She lets the Spirit guide her positioning. She knows timing is everything, and prayer reveals when to act, when to wait, and when to walk away. This is why she rarely finds herself entangled in emotional messes, because she chose posture over panic. She chose presence over pressure. She's not loud, but she's heard. She's not visible, but she's victorious. Because in her secret place, she is receiving strategies, insight, and supernatural peace. She is not frantic, she is focused. She is not rushing, she is rooted. The woman who prays is always steps ahead, because while others are scattered, she is settled. Her strength is not in her reaction, it is in her positioning. And in that posture, she gains what panic will never give: clarity, covering, and confidence. Emotional strength is the fruit of inner peace, not external affirmation. A woman who is truly strong is not one who appears loud or forceful, but one who has mastered stillness within. Her strength is not drawn from applause, validation, or praise. It is born in the secret chambers of her soul, where she and God meet. While the world teaches her to seek strength through achievement, beauty, or attention, she has discovered a different source. Her peace is not circumstantial, it is spiritual. It does not depend on who stays or who leaves, what works or what breaks. It flows from the knowledge that she is deeply rooted in something greater than herself. She doesn't crumble under criticism or become inflated by compliments. Her emotions are steady because they are submitted. She has learned that to be strong emotionally is not to suppress feelings, but to govern them. She feels fully, yet she doesn't react wildly. She allows space for her emotions, but she doesn't let them dominate her destiny. Her peace becomes a filter, and through it she sees clearly, loves wisely, and speaks intentionally. She is not easily offended because her sense of worth is not up for negotiation. She is not constantly seeking reassurance because she has already been affirmed by the voice that matters most. She can love and let go, give and not grow bitter, speak and still remain gentle. That level of strength cannot be faked. It is cultivated through time in God's presence, where the storms of life lose their power and the noise of the world fades. My strength is quiet but unshakable. It's not in her tone, it's in her truth. It's not in her posture, it's in her peace. This is the kind of strength that doesn't need to be seen to be real. It just is. The floor of prayer is the highest platform a woman can stand on in love. While others may seek stages, attention, or applause to validate their place in someone's life, she understands that the real authority in love is established on her knees. It is not weakness to bow, it is wisdom. Because from the floor she sees clearer than most who stand in pride. From the floor she receives instructions, discernment, and clarity that no conversation or emotion can offer. She doesn't rely on outward gestures of affection to feel secure. She is anchored by divine revelation. She knows that to stand strong in a relationship, she must first kneel before the one who authors love itself. She doesn't just bring her heart to God, she brings the heart of the one she loves too. She intercedes for him, not because she's desperate, but because she's devoted. And in doing so, she becomes a partner in the spiritual realm, covering the one she loves with the kind of strength that no gift or word can match. The floor of prayer humbles her and at the same time exalts her. Not in the eyes of men, but in the realm of heaven where true power is measured. While others rush into love with emotion as their only compass, she walks in with discernment as her guide. She has wept on that floor, waited on that floor, warred on that floor, and it has become her place of transformation. Her power is not in persuasion, but in intercession. Her influence is not in her demands, but in her devotion. She doesn't manipulate outcomes. She surrenders them. And in that surrender, she rises not above people, but above confusion. That floor is not a sign of defeat. It is the throne room where she gains victory in silence. She doesn't lose herself in love because she has already found herself in God. Her identity is not shaped by the presence or absence of a man. It is anchored in the presence of her Creator. She does not enter relationships searching for completion because she is already whole. She does not expect a man to define her because she knows who she is before she ever becomes a we. This inner certainty protects her from emotional erosion. She does not merge her identity with someone else's expectations. She brings her full self to the table, clear about her worth and rooted in purpose. She can give love freely without fear of losing herself in the process. She does not overextend to be accepted or silence her voice to be chosen. She knows that compromising her identity is too high a price for companionship. Because when a woman finds herself in God, she lives with boundaries shaped by wisdom, not walls built by pain. Her love becomes an offering, not a sacrifice of self. She gives from abundance, not emptiness. When disagreements come, she doesn't lose stability. When affection shifts, she doesn't unravel. She stands firm because her value wasn't placed in human hands to begin with. She does not collapse under the weight of romantic disappointment because her foundation is not emotional, it is spiritual. She has discovered her value through divine intimacy, and no human connection can increase or decrease it. This kind of woman walks into love with eyes wide open, not to inspect others, but to honor what God has already revealed within her. She can walk away if she must, not because she's cold, but because she's clear. She remains intact through every season of love because she was never lost to begin with.